at some point you have to just be honest with yourself and realize like it's better to move imperfectly forward than to be perfect and stand still.
Bar. Let me tell you, you so right. Tim will tell you, I don't even think I wanted to do it, but we said we got to do something with long content. And I think Tim was my first like guest. And I was just like, damn, we got to keep doing this thing. And because I'm a recovering perfectionist, y'all. So I'm like, but we don't got all the things and this. And we just started. And I tell people, start where you are, start with what you got. And, you know, we're a year in now, I think this month or next month. And it's got, we took a step back. So what can we change? And we have a few iterations now. And now we got this like well-oiled machine. So you are spot on with that. I'm encourage everybody, just start. Speaking of starting, I'm gonna dive in. I just want to just celebrate you and help promote you. Talk to us about, you got a book coming out, Becoming Undone. Talk to us about it. Sell it. Give it to me.
Yeah. So the show's been going for about 3 years now. And yesterday actually was the highest ranking I've had. So number 4 on Apple for self-improvement and education, and number 109 in all categories. And there's 4 million podcasts. So super blessed, thankful. I had somebody from your stomping grounds. He played on both coasts, but I had Daryl Strawberry on the show, and just kind of massive response to that. So it was tremendous. So the show allowed me to have conversations with people like that I never would have otherwise. I've worked in sports for a long time, and that's kind of where it started. I was teaching during COVID. We were remote learning, and my students were just bored to tears with Zoom lessons. So I convened a panel of former athletes, and it was a mental health athletic training course. And I just wanted to talk about the transition out of sports. I wanted to bring high-level college and former professional athletes, and I wanted them to talk to my athletic training students about what it was like for them psychologically to make that switch. And from that one conversation, I just couldn't get it out of my head. It was so rich. Tears were shed. Like, people were processing emotions that they had tucked way down deep about the grief of losing that athletic identity. And so planted the show and started with 10 episodes right out of the gate that I'd recorded over a month or so. And they weren't all athletes. I had my first guest is the executive director at Hazelden Betty Ford. He was in New York City during 9/11. His office was in the
towers.
And he was taking a certification exam that day. It's the only reason he wasn't in his office when the towers were hit. And so he spiraled after that. Like, he lost colleagues, coworkers. His addiction to drugs and alcohol kind of spiraled. And from that, he left his finance career and eventually found his way into counseling and working as an addiction recovery specialist. And so, not an athlete at all, but an example of someone who had something that they never would have chosen. And that actually set the stage for accomplishments unlike anything he could have otherwise. From there, Navy SEALs, former pro athletes, Olympians, artists. I had Garfield Bright from Shy was a big get for me. I had him talking about their ascent in the music business. So, Grammy Award-winning artists one year who don't have a record deal the next. And how do you deal with that? So all these stories were coming to me at a time when I was trying to process my own memoir. And I was writing this during COVID, pretty dark place myself.
Right.
And the more I wrote about myself, my wife was reading some of these chapters. She's like, I hate to tell you this, but this is not a super inspiring story. Like, nobody's going to want to read this.
Voice of reason.
Because I had to process these emotions, like stuff that was failure for me. And a lot of that didn't make its way into the final copy, but I needed to have written it. So now it's really a combination. It's 3 parts. The first part kind of talks about the unraveling. The second part talks about the rebuild. And then the third part is really kind of the how-to. And it's not just my story. I think I ended up with 16 different guests who had been on the show whose stories are kind of woven into the book as well.
Wow. And when's the book coming out?
Coming out in September. Should be on Amazon. It'll be on my website, and then hopefully everywhere that I speak.
Check. Well, I'll definitely tap in when that goes live.
I'll
So
gladly
so
send you a copy.
oh, listen,
I
my
got you.
man, on it, dog, on it. I'll make sure I'll be promoting that. Hey, my one guy, he just dropped. He was on the show too, Daniel Wade. Oh man, it was I had it on my last trip, but I took some pictures of it and like posted. So I'll do all that type of stuff for you.
Appreciate that.
Hey, so before the degrees, professor title, the podcast, all your public work, who's Toby Brooks? You know, when none of that title stuff's in the room.
Yeah, I'm a small town, grew up in the middle of nowhere, spot in the road. My dad was a mechanic. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Learned work ethic early, and it was definitely a different era in terms of real estate. My parents had high school diplomas, and they bought a 40-acre farm and a house and barns and stuff. But that's where I grew up. I didn't really have a neighborhood to play with, so a lot of basketball, just shooting by myself. A lot of just kind of stomping around the property, that kind of thing. But from that, I learned the normal 9 to 5 was not really my calling. My dad, he worked in the coal industry, so he was a heavy equipment mechanic. And in the coal industry, lots of times you don't know if you're going to get laid off. Overtime is available. You take it. If you don't, it might not be there the next weekend, that kind of thing. So he worked routinely 70 hours a week, 7 days a week for months on end. And for better or for worse, I learned that that's what a man needs to do. And I've had to kind of unpack that. And yeah, there's some great things to that, to be a provider and to support the people that you love, but you can take that too far as well. So I really early on recognized that I might not be the fastest. I might not be the smartest. I might not be the best looking, but I can always control my work, and I can always do my best to try to outwork the other guy. And that was really what I kind of leaned into the most.
Your dad and I share something. When I went to the military, I remember my mom's told me, you gotta do something with your hands, and I was like, well, my hands, all right. So I became a heavy construction equipment mechanic. And Toby, I hated that. Let me tell you, when it's cold, the bay doors are open, you cold. When it's hot, the bay doors are open. I said, this is for the birds. And I eventually reclassed and changed over, but hard work. Yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
No stranger to that. Now you talk about you describe yourself as a servant leader who wants to help others discover and pursue their purpose. Where did that sense of service first begin forming for you?
Yeah, small town. Graduated with like 38 other students in my high school class. We didn't even have a football team.
Wow.
Marching band, basketball, baseball. Like, you played everything with all the same people. All the kids that were involved in extracurricular stuff, they all did everything. And so kind of learned early that in order to set myself apart, I wanted to serve. I wanted to be a leader. And, whether that's a team captain or section leader, all those types of things, I just always gravitated to that. Not because I wanted prestige or power or anything like that. I really felt like it was the right thing to do. And once I got into college, that kind of followed me there. And I ended up going into athletic training because I knew I didn't have a career. I loved basketball always. I knew I wasn't going to play in the NBA, but in my mind, as a healthcare provider working with athletes, maybe I had a shot.
Sure.
And when I got there, I really had trouble working basketball. Like, it was hard for me to sit on a sideline or a bench and watch other people hoop. And so I had never played football, and I loved it. And in the profession of athletic training, football jobs tend to be the most prestigious. They tend to pay the most. So that kind of aligned as well. So the thought was, NFL or D1 football athletic trainer. So that was what I really kind of leaned into, because I wanted to help people. Like, if I couldn't be the guy toting the rock or making the tackle. I wanted to be the guy helping the guy doing that.
Toby, were you a dreamer growing up, like young?
Absolutely. There's a whole chapter in the book about how I wanted to be an astronaut from the earliest days that I can recall. I'm 6'4", pushing 240, 250. That's too big to be an astronaut. I recognize that I don't like roller coasters. That's probably not a great combo for an astronaut. I think, honestly, I think God planted that in me so that I could impress my wife. And on that first
Oh,
date, when I said I wanted to be an astronaut, I think she was hooked. Like, wow, this guy really has ambition.
right. Oh, it's not kind of random, but what's your relationship? And I deduced it, but I want my listeners to hear. What was your relationship to failure? Like, let's talk past, present.
Yeah. Terrified. So I think Carol Dweck talks about mindset. She talks about closed mindset versus fixed versus growth, rather. And I was the classic fixed mindset. Like I got into a gifted and talented program in elementary school, and yeah, it's just like she writes about it. Like I didn't want to take harder tests. I wanted to keep taking easy tests so I could do well and get patted on the head for being the smart kid.
Right.
I wanted to maybe pursue medicine, like helping people. To me meant like I could be a physician, not just a PhD. But I was terrified of organic chemistry, so I chose a path that I could probably get as close to a 4.0 as possible. So I ran from potential failure, because what would that say to me, and how would I deal with that loss of identity? If you're a perfectionist, then encountering something that's going to show you that you are imperfect is a real existential threat. You are not looking for ways to disprove that you've got it all together. You're looking for ways to confirm that you're that good. And so I was terrified. And that showed up in my life.
And you end up where you are now. What would you tell somebody that's, say, maybe 20 going into college, who has a fixed mindset? Because you had to have had a shift somewhere along the line. What advice would you give them?
Yeah. So I look at it a lot like March Madness, and that may sound weird, but your record only matters to the extent that you get in the tournament. As soon as you get in the tournament, you got a chance to win it all. In college, if you have aspirations of going to law school or going to medical school or just getting your undergrad degree, you really just need to get in the door. If you get accepted, that's good enough. And so I ran from what I perceived as threats academically, and I sold myself short in that process. So no one has ever, I've had to turn in transcripts, but no one has ever just outright to a person said, hey, what was your GPA in high school? What was your GPA in grad school? And I was so obsessed over that number, but no one cares. As long as you can get in, that's good enough. My dissertation advisor said, you know what they call someone who wrote the worst dissertation ever that passed? Doctor. That's what they call them.
Doctor. That's funny. Yeah. They said about if you're in doctor and you average a C versus A, are both still doctors.